It is true, as you saw in the beginning, I'm about to open up a can of worms. And I do mean that as a pun, but quite literally, it's kind of gross when you start talking about parasites in the human body. I did a testimony recently, earlier this week, and it's called Breaking the Mold. And it's my testimony of my recovery from mold toxicity specifically, and what I discovered was blocking my actual recovery, the ability of my body to get rid of everything that I was trying to detox it from. So in that testimony, and I'll put a link to it in the description, it's on our channel, I shared about parasites, and I have had a lot of response from that, a lot of people wanting to know, what did you do, how did you get rid of them? And I shared in the video, Dr. Todd Watts of Microbe Formula has a 2-finger test to see if you have parasites. You take 2 fingers, you place it on your wrist here, and if you feel a pulse, you have parasites. And I honestly believe that, because the world that we live in, I mean, the parasites are everywhere. 70% of shopping cart handles are contaminated with fecal matter. And that may be a little bit better now with everybody wiping down the shopping cart handles because of the viral situation and stuff, but nonetheless, hygiene is an issue with some individuals and in some countries. If you've traveled abroad, which I have, you may have encountered parasites. If you were raised on a farm, which I was, you probably have parasites. If you have a pet, which I have, you probably have parasites. If you shop in the produce section in the grocery store, you probably have parasites, which most of us hopefully do. So it's not something that should be considered, you know, that person is nasty or what have you. I really believe that we all should do a parasite cleanse. And, you know, as I was thinking about doing this video, I thought, well, what are some of the symptoms of parasite infestation? I encourage you to go to YouTube and look up a video. I think it was done by Marcus Rothkranz, and it says, What's Eating You? That's the title, What's Eating You? And it just goes through and shows the plethora of symptoms that can be caused from parasites. But I'll just give you a few. I just happened to look on the computer before I started this video, and I apologize for the road noise. We don't live too far off of the highway right now. I looked up Dr. Amy Meyer's website, and she has just 10 symptoms that you may have a parasite. You have unexplained constipation, diarrhea, gas, or other symptoms of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. You've traveled internationally, we talked about that. You have a history of food poisoning and your digestion has not been the same since. You have trouble falling asleep, or you wake up in the middle multiple times during the night. And another thing that I had issue with, and others have too, is having leg cramps and leg jerks, like restless leg syndrome, especially at night. Parasites tend to be more active at night. Skin irritations that are unexplained, rashes, hives, rosacea, eczema. You grind your teeth in your sleep. You have pain or aching in your muscles or joints. You experience fatigue, exhaustion, depression, or frequent feelings of apathy. You never feel satisfied or full after your meals. You've been diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, and I can add a few more to this. One is maybe you're fairly fit, but you still have either bloating or kind of a poochy belly. That could be parasites. You know, parasites can get in your eye, they can get in your brain, they can get in your intestines, and as with me, I believe that the issue with me, if you watch the video Breaking the Mold, parasites, some of them like to hang out in the bile ducts, and if you're not familiar with the liver and the bile ducts and all, the liver gets rid of its toxins. One of the ways is 2 main ways that it eliminates toxins. One is through the kidneys, the other is through the bile and by way of the colon. And if your bile ducts are plugged up with parasites or what have you, your liver can't drain. And what happened with me, as I shared in my little video that I made, was I was trying to detox from this mold, and my liver couldn't get rid of the toxins that, my body was sending to it. And my liver actually kind of swelled up, and it got very tender. I could feel my liver below my rib cage, and then my kidneys started hurting. It really got my attention. And so I backed up and I hit the Parasite Detox hard. And, you know, I've done Parasite Detoxes before. I've taken just about I've taken the ivermectin that they give dogs and cattle. I've tried that on myself. I'm a little bit adventurous with stuff. I've taken ivermectin, I've taken the Artemisia, the full spectrum, the wormwood, the black walnut hull, all of that, diatomaceous earth. I tried everything. But until I tried this product right here, it's called Mimosa Pudica seed, and I get mine from Microbe Formulas. Until I tried this, nothing really worked. And of course, I use doTERRA. I take clove essential oil along with it, and I like to put it in a empty veggie cap because it numbs my mouth whenever I just try to drink it in water. So I'll put 3 or 4 drops twice a day, and take that. We'll talk more about these in just a little bit, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the detox pathways and what you really need to do before you start dealing with parasites. And I found, and I probably could put this on a slide or what have you, but I found this from Microbe Formulas, and I thought it was pretty good. You can freeze the screen there and look at it. But basically, the detoxification of our body is kind of in the shape of a funnel, and if you think about it, really, that's kind of how our bodies are shaped. You know, the colon is the tip of the funnel. And if you've ever used a funnel and you've gotten something clogged up in the tip, but you keep pouring stuff in, it's just going to overflow. And that's the same with toxins in our body. So anytime you start thinking about wanting to detox yourself from parasites, you need to look first at the colon. Make sure you're having a minimum of 2 bowel movements a day. If you eat 3 times a day, you really should have 3 bowel movements a day. That's normal, that's healthy. And we could spend a lot of time on that, but we won't. So you just have to make sure that the colon is clean. And so I recommend, and what we do is just make sure that, you know, we either take something to support that until we bring ourselves to 2 bowel movements a day. We eat 2 meals a day as a general rule, before we even start talking about the liver. The next in line is the liver and the liver bile ducts. There are a lot of things that you can do. You need to keep the bile flow, the bile thinned out, the bile flowing well. It's when our bile gets thick and sludgy that we end up with gallstones and end up losing our gallbladders. Really, I don't believe there's any reason for anybody to ever have to lose their gallbladder. That's a broad statement, but you know, I think it should be a rare occasion instead of very common. It's one of the most common surgeries, is having the gallbladder removed. So any food that is bitter, the bitter taste in the mouth stimulates the release of bile in the liver. So what are those? Let's see. We have the bitter greens. We have the dandelion root. We have arugula. A lot of the greens, leafy greens, are bitter. And if you think about those, that's easy enough to put into a salad. Peppermint is considered a bitter. Lemon even helps to increase bile flow. And there's other things that you can do. You can research that, but the key here is increasing the bile flow. So you have to open up the colon. You have to increase the bile flow in the liver. The next thing we have to look at is the lymph, to make sure that our lymph is not stagnant. And then you get down to the organs and the tissues, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that because we're basically talking about parasites. And then after that, you start getting to the cells. But what I want to spend a little bit of time on is talking about the Mimosa Pudica and the clove. Mimosa Pudica seed, it's in the same family as the mimosa tree. Maybe some of you from the South. I was raised in the South, and we had mimosa trees, and there's mimosa trees around here where I am now in Kentucky. But the Mimosa Pudica plant is in the same family as the mimosa tree, but it's a little shrub. And I believe I remember seeing these plants as a kid, growing up in Alabama and South Louisiana. And the leaves fold up whenever you touch the leaves. It has a nice little pink flower. You can look it up. You can see a picture of the plant. But Mimosa Pudica seed has a lot of different uses, not just killing parasites. It's an antioxidant. It helps to tie up free radicals in the body, or eliminate free radicals in the body. But anyway, you can look it up, and I'll put a link in the box, in the description box below, about all the different benefits of Mimosa Pudica seed. But the way the Mimosa Pudica seed works on parasites is basically it kind of paralyzes them, and then they just suffocate. And it coats, the Mimosa Pudica coats the lining of the intestine, and it kind of scrubs it, and it helps to remove heavy metals and candida. If you didn't know, there's kind of a, we'll just use this as a layer. Let's just say this is a parasite, and parasites absorb heavy metals, and then up here, candida thrives in the presence of heavy metals. So if you know anybody that has a real problem with candida and they can't seem to get rid of it, then they may need to deal with parasites. That may be the underlying problem. Parasite toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, and then candida. It has to be taken on an empty stomach, and there's several different ways that kind of you can take it, and I've done several different things. When I first took it, I didn't have my glasses on when I read the directions, and I thought it said 1 capsule twice a day. So that's what I started taking. This was about 2 years ago. And I think it was within 4 days I started seeing some parasites. And you guys, this is gross, but I passed one. I don't know if my hands will show in the frame here, but I passed one that was about a yard long. It was disgusting. And the next day I passed another one. A friend of mine told me that was Grandma and Grandpa. And so it definitely works. But then my husband read the bottle and he told me I was not taking it correctly, so I increased it to 2 capsules twice a day. And it was amazing what came out of me, and my husband was convinced that this was all a hoax, so I challenged him to take it, and he did, and he was loaded. So, you know, you may be skeptical. I don't think there's any human being on the face of this earth that's more skeptical than my husband was, and even recently he started doing it with me again, and he was absolutely loaded. And if he was standing here beside me, he would tell you the same thing. Often you don't see the parasites in your stool. There's really no really good stool tests now, because when the parasites die, they begin to disintegrate. Their bodies begin to fall apart. So you only see about 30% of them in your stool, and even then, often you only see them if you excavate a little bit. In other words, get a stick and kind of, yeah. So anyway, this last time, when we started taking the Mimosa Pudica, my husband had a bowel movement one morning, and he decided to excavate. And this is after he had been taking the Mimosa Pudica for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And almost his entire bowel movement was parasites. And so, I know this is disgusting, but it's real, you know. And if you have any kind of chronic health issue or something that, you know, you're just tired, you just can't seem to, it's worth a try. You got nothing to lose but a belly full of worms, you know. I mean, why not try it? It's better out than in. Yeah, it's gross, but it's better out than in. Get rid of them, you know. You got nothing to lose but parasites. Let's see. Along with it, now, the Mimosa Pudica will take care of mature parasites as well as juvenile, but not the eggs so much. And so that's why I take the clove oil. The clove oil will kill the eggs, as I said earlier. So one other thing that helps to eliminate the parasites, sometimes it takes a little longer for them to come out once they die. One of the things that we like to do, or I like to do, and I've encouraged other people to do this, and by the way, I should have done this at the beginning of the video, but I'll do it right here. I'm not a physician, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not here to cure your disease. You do this at your own risk. It works for me, it works for my family, and it's worked for a lot of my friends. So just, there's the disclaimer. But we like to do the coffee enema, and I don't use as much coffee in my coffee enema as others do. I'm a very small person, and I don't like, some people use 3 tablespoons per coffee enema, and for me that's like way overkill. So I only use 1 or at the most 2 teaspoons of coffee. And the coffee helps to clean and detoxify the liver. It increases your levels of glutathione, which is your body's big antioxidant. Many people, even that have like Hashimoto's and other thyroid issues, it's because they can't convert the T4 to T3, and it's because they're glutathione depleted. And with those like me who have had mold toxicity, your glutathione is tanked. You have none. And so the coffee in them is good for a lot of different things. 1 is increasing the glutathione. 2 is the coffee helps to increase bile flow, and it helps to open up the bile ducts. You can also use tangerine essential oil in your coffee in them, and that really helps to open up the bile ducts. And so as I'm taking the Mimosa Pudica, I like to do these things that help my body to get rid of the parasites, because, as they die, you've got dead tissue inside your body, and that, kind of makes you not feel so good sometimes. Whenever I first started back on the Mimosa Pudica on this detox, for 2 days I really didn't feel well, but once I started passing the parasites, every day incrementally I noticed an improvement in my energy, and I started feeling better, and just it was amazing how much better I felt. I know there's stuff I'm forgetting. I'm just trying to do this quick because I've had so many people ask me, and if I forget stuff, I'll just put it in the comment section below, because I can edit that. But one of the things, there's different ways, and I started talking about this early and I got sidetracked. 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening is what's recommended by Microbe Formulas, but they have a technique that they call pulsing. And pulsing is a technique where you take large amounts of Mimosa Pudica for a week or 2 or whatever, and then you back off, and then you come back with it. And also, parasites tend to be more active when there's a full moon. And in fact, Microbe Formulas has a pack that they call the full moon kit or full moon pack. It has the Formula 1 that helps to get the bowels moving, and it has the Mimosa Pudica, and I think it's got 1 or 2 other things in it. I'm not sure. I'll put a link for Microbe Formulas in the description box. We are affiliates with them, so if you buy through our link, our ministry gets credit. But if you can find Mimosa Pudica somewhere else, more power to you, but I have not been able to find one that's pure Mimosa Pudica in veggie caps with a good date, and I trust it. So this is the one that I use. So that's all I can think of right now. If I've forgotten something, just shoot me a question and I'll answer it. With the pulsing, I have been doing that now for about 3 weeks, and I'm still seeing parasites. The guys at Microbe Formulas have kind of a general rule out that someone who is healthy, relatively healthy, it can take them up to 90 days to get rid of their parasites. You want to take it until you don't see any parasites in your stool for a while, and you've begun to notice, improvement. Again, there's other benefits of the Mimosa Pudica, so it's not going to hurt you. That's all I can think of right now. Again, just shoot me a question if you have questions. Thank you. The other thing is, I forgot. I must have worms in my brain.